Yuga Labs has just dropped the Otherside. Now this is huge. This is the biggest launch in the NFT space this year. Now it minted at around about 2 ETH, but you had to pay using ApeCoin, and people were paying up to around 2 ETH gas on average to kind of get the transaction through the door. So let's jump in and check out the post-drop stats. So first up, having a look at Opensea, we can see here that the volume traded over 50,000 within the first 12 hours. Now the floor price is currently sitting at around 7.5, and when it comes down to the activity and how fast, things are still moving decently fast. Like look, you can see here transactions are just running crazy. Now what we're going to do is we're going to jump over onto Nansen to get a breakdown of the stats, but a quick look at all the other transactions that have recently happened. So we can see here that the volume, almost that 60,000 volume for other deeds, so that is the deeds for the plots on the other side. Then we've got 17, 14, then almost 2. All of these other drops fail in comparison to how much volume and how much attention has actually gone into this. Now before we jump into the breakdown of the stats itself, scroll down there, hit up that like button, and make sure you subscribe. I also want to leave some of my personal thoughts towards the end of the video. I just want to keep this straight, hard, and to the stats for the moment. Now, when we have a look at some of the volume and the average price, so the average price is this blue line. We can see here that it is kind of bouncing around, and this is at around that 10 ETH mark. This is the average price, but the volume has kind of dropped off. Now, saying that right now at this point in time, it's super late / early in the morning, so 4, 5 a.m. in the US currently, so a lot of people are asleep, so I can see this volume picking up very, very soon. Now, when we have a look at some of the individual transactions over the past sort of 4 or 5 hours, what we can actually see here is that there is this steady line down here at around that sort of 7 to 8 ETH mark, and it's averaging at around that 10 ETH mark. That is where people like taking some of these higher sort of plots and then bringing them back down. So what we can see here is the fact that we can kind of see a very strong, solid kind of floor when it comes down to this project. Now, when it comes down to top balances, what we can see here is that some of the top balances, I believe these are kind of dev wallets, things like that. We've got the top one at 12,000, then we've got 2,500, then we've got 500. Now, the reason that I'm saying this is that doing a bit of a deep dive into what these actually wallets hold, we can kind of see here that in this wallet, they've got Otherside, they've got CryptoPunks, Meebits, Black Paris Yogis, they've got a bunch of different things. And then when you jump in on their Opensea account, you can see here 2 days ago, airdrop. So there are lots of different things that are kind of at play here. So that's why I would say that I think these sort of top addresses are kind of dev wallets, things like that. Now, when we actually get into the top holders that I believe so, we've got 238, 228, 218. Now we've got a heavy set of holders here with the fact that we've got the top 10 are sort of rounding out, holding at about 100. Then once we bump over, we kind of get down to the sort of top 20 around 69. Then it kind of starts to kind of flatten off around here with a lot of people holding some of those. So that is my little breakdown about those kind of wallets and why I think some of the top ones are essentially kind of almost like dev wallets, things like that, because they were kind of sent out and airdropped earlier. Now, I want to butt in really quick and say that the tool that I'm using right now is Nansen. Now, down below in the description, there's actually a link to Nansen, and it's an affiliate link. So if you do sign up and kind of use any of that, I do get a kickback. So full disclosure there. As you can see throughout this video, it's got some great stats, some great tools, things like that, and they're constantly improving and updating. I'm a big advocate for Nansen. Okay, let's kick on with the video. Now, when we come down to the holders of the project, there's not much we can take away here because it's only been essentially this like 9-10 hours. So we can see here that we've gone up to around that 28,000 unique addresses, which is not that many when you kind of take into the total supply that we're carrying out with around 86,000. And the percentage holding one NFT, obviously it's dropped down. That's how we getting to around that 37%. Now, with the fact that we're kind of getting the balance of the diamond hand. So essentially with this chart, the fact is 65,000. So a very large percentage of people are kind of holding this and they're not selling this, not listing this. So this shows very strong conviction when it comes down to the project, very strong kind of conviction when it comes down to people that are in this project. And that is no surprise, seeing that the entire BAYC Yuga kind of universe, people that are in there want to be in there, they want to hold. And the conversations that I've kind of heard around is that all of these people kind of want to max mint, hold long term. So that's why this kind of makes sense there. Now, when we have a look at the profit leaderboard, now this is a great one to look at. We can see here that the top profit taker, 54 ETH. Then after that, we're seeing 18, then 13. Then after that, we're kind of 8s, and the top sort of 10, well, the top 20 kind of round off at around this 4 ETH mark. Now, what this shows me is it shows me that there are a lot of people that are holding this, people that could make these big flips and they're not doing it. So it shows right now that there are some people that are holding on to some large potential profits. The fact that some of these people are holding on to hundreds and hundreds, so they could be sitting on 200, 300, 400 ETH worth of profits, but they're not taking them. This is crazy. It shows you exactly the kind of holders that you've got in this project. People that here essentially bought 4, sold 4, bought 1, sold 1. This is kind of universal across this board when it comes down to the profit leaderboard. So it shows me, and this should also be showing you the fact that the people that are in this project are in this to hold this. So this is kind of very crazy and very different when it comes down to a profit leaderboard, especially with the floor price sitting at around that sort of 7 to 8 ETH mark, which is crazy. Now, when we have a look at where some of the current trades are, where the sort of top 5 buying addresses are actually entering into the market, what we can see here is we can see the fact that people are entering at around that sort of 7 ETH mark. This is where they're kind of jumping in and accumulating. Now, where it comes down to smart money buying in, we can see them snapping that up at around that sort of 5 ETH mark. But as you can see, this trajectory, the fact that it started at 5 and it's starting to kind of go up, shows the fact that they kind of essentially FOMO'd in. Now, I know that FOMO in, it doesn't really kind of make sense when it comes into smart buys, but the fact is this is kind of chipping up and moving in an upwards trajectory. So it shows me the fact that the people that are buying into this see this as a long-term hold and they're buying in. And when the price floor has risen, they've kind of taken it as it's risen up and they're holding onto it. Now, when we have a look at the current listings and where some of these floor prices are sitting, what we can see here is that there's a lot of listings at around that 7.5 ETH mark. So you can kind of see some of the listings here, and this can kind of give you an idea of what these people are taking when it comes down to a profit. So it's showing you that a lot of these people that are kind of right here, they're taking profits that are essentially free mint. So you can see here, this guy has been taking profits from an airdrop, essentially because the listing price and the profit and loss is exactly the same. Now, when we have a look at the floor price, we can see here that the floor price is starting to steady off at around that sort of 7.5 ETH mark when it comes down to listings and the amount of NFTs listed. Above the floor price, it's kind of sitting at around 2,000 is above the floor price, and then at the floor price at around 15%. So the floor price is quite thin when it comes down to where it can go. So all it takes is a little bit of volume, and I can see some of the US market kind of coming into this a little bit later and then kind of chipping that up. But this is contingent on people not listing when they kind of do wake up. Now, having a look at the current listings, what we can see here is that the top range is at around that 15 to 30 ETH mark. That's where a lot of listings are. And between that sort of 7 and 8 ETH mark, we've got 200 listings. So it's very, very thin when it comes to the kind of total supply of the market and where the actual kind of floor thickness is. And I think this is very interesting to see, especially this sort of close to the actual mint price. So that is a breakdown of the other side, where some of the top holders are, top profit takers, where the movement is. When it comes down to this project and where it's currently sitting, we do need to see it run out for another 12 hours because we've only seen it run for this frothy 12 hours. It hasn't even been 12 hours since the mint kicked off. So we need to kind of give it another 12 to kind of see where we kind of hit some of this equilibrium. We are starting to see a bit of a stabilization at around that kind of 7.5 ETH mark, but saying that we were sitting around 8.5 a few hours beforehand. When we see a new day kick in, this may spur up a few more things, and then we'll kind of see where it goes. But at the moment, it looks very solid. From my perspective, I think we won't go below a sort of 4 to 5 ETH floor mark. The reason being, It costs people around 2 ETH gas to kind of mint, and around 2 ETH when you take in the ape coin equivalent. So that's a 4 ETH floor. And I don't think that anyone that is in this project will be paper handing and taking a loss on this project. I think they will be coming in, especially those that minted, will be kind of at least wanting to long-term hold / a 2 to 3x on their money. So I don't think we should be getting low. And I think there are some savvy buyers out there looking to snap up it when it gets into that sort of 6 ETH, like that high 6 ETH territory. So when it comes down to the drop of the project itself, what do I actually think about it? Now, this isn't going off the data and the stats. This is just going off me and my kind of experience through this. So I actually did try to mint, failed transaction. That is what it is. That kind of happens. Could Yuga Labs have done something better? 100%. They could have done something better when it comes to this project. The fact is, the people needed to spend 1.5 to 2 ETH to actually push through a transaction. They've clogged up the network, and it just wasn't done in a really good way or a really good sense. There are people out there that essentially did their KYC, got their coins, got everything together, and just weren't able to push through a transaction. Now, the Yuga Labs don't really give a damn. They've made their money. They can kind of fund and roll out their roadmap, what they wanted to do. But what I think is a shame is that there is hundreds of millions of dollars, and this isn't an exaggeration, hundreds of millions of dollars that has just been spent on gas, that's been wasted. Those hundreds of millions of dollars could have gone back into the ecosystem. They could have gone back into projects. If we were able to give 200 million devs to work in Web3, to create interesting dApps, to create ways, bridges, things like that, we'd advance the space so much further. But no, that has just gone into the pockets of the miners. That has just been wasted for no particular reason. So the thing is, there's part of it that's, I'm a little bit salty, the fact that my transaction failed and I wasn't able to get some land. But the other fact is the fact that it's just a wasteful amount of money that has gone into the space. We've essentially just ripped sort of 100 to 200 million dollars worth of liquidity out of the market. That's gone, and it's not going to go back into the system. It's not going to go back into supporting the artists, to support the kind of the teams, the devs, the people that are doing great work. So that is what makes me sort of frustrated about this aspect. Is the fact is there's so much money that could have been gone into great teams, great projects to actually kind of do something else. And no, this isn't just about sort of pumping my degen bag that I'd like. Obviously, that'd be fun. But the fact is that amount of money could have done so much good within this space and just kind of propel it forward. Now, what I do believe will happen is that this is kind of pushed forward a narrative, which then means that we're going to end up with people that are very tight on liquidity at the moment because of the amount of ETH that was spent, let alone the actual mint price itself. So those are my personal thoughts. That isn't kind of backed up. Well, it's kind of backed up on some data, but those are my thoughts coming down to the project. Now, would these thoughts be different if I had actually kind of succeeded in the mint? Most likely, I'd be kind of looking on it with rose-tinted glasses, kind of reflecting back on it going, hey, that was great. But saying that, I do think that most people in the space are kind of a little bit salty when it comes down to the amount of money, the amount of liquidity that's been ripped out of the market because of poor execution of this actual mint. So that is a breakdown of what happened with the other side, all the stats, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully you found value in this video. If you did, please consider hitting up that subscribe button, and while you're down there, also hit up the like button. As always, it's been a pleasure having you with me. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.